The massive chamber on Axis Prime buzzed with tension as 12 different alien species gathered for the emergency council meeting. The air recyclers worked overtime to accommodate the various atmospheric needs of each delegation. Some breathed methane, others required high pressure, and a few needed the cold vacuum of space itself. At the center of the circular chamber stood the holographic display showing human settlements scattered across 23 star systems. Red dots marked each human colony, spreading like an infection across what the aliens considered their ancient territory. Admiral Krextal of the Vorthak Empire slammed his clawed fist on the metal table. His reptilian features twisted with anger as he spoke through the universal translator. 200 years ago, these humans had barely left their home planet. Now look at them. They spread like a disease across our space. The crystalline being, known as Velthara, pulsed with blue light as she responded. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. The Nexari Collective agrees. These humans reproduce too fast and claim too many worlds. They must be stopped before they become a real threat. Queen Zakthresh of the Zephyrian Hive clicked her mandibles rapidly. Through her drone translator, her words came out cold and mechanical. The hive mind has calculated their expansion rate. If left unchecked, humans will outnumber all council species within 500 years. Other council members nodded their various heads, tentacles, and energy fields in agreement. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace by controlling which species could expand and how far. Every member had learned to respect the established order. Every member except the humans. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted immediate military action. Others preferred economic sanctions. A few suggested biological warfare. But they all agreed on one thing. Humanity had to be contained. Finally, Krextal stood up to his full 8-foot height. His scales shifted from green to deep red, showing his determination. Enough talk. We send them a simple message. They have 1 galactic standard year to withdraw to their home system. All colonies must be abandoned. All expansion must stop. If they refuse, we use force. The vote was unanimous. 12 species, commanding over 50,000 warships, against one young race that had barely learned to travel between stars. 3 days later, Admiral Do Hyun received the message while standing on the observation deck of Luna Station. Earth hung blue and white in the viewport behind him as he read the Council's ultimatum on his data pad. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his aide noticed his hands tighten around the device. Commander Hye Jin stepped forward, her boots clicking on the metal floor. She had served under Do Hyun for 8 years and knew his moods well. Sir, intelligence reports suggest the Council has access to over 50,000 ships across all member species. Our official records show we have 847 ships in the First Fleet. Do Hyun nodded slowly, still staring at the message. What do our colonies say? The governors are asking for instructions, sir. Some want to evacuate immediately. Others are talking about resistance. Hye-jin paused, then added quietly, The outer colonies are the most defiant. They say they won't abandon worlds they spent generations building. Do Hyun turned away from the viewport and walked to his command station. The bridge of Luna Station buzzed with activity as officers monitored communications from across human space. Reports flooded in from every colony. Fear, anger, defiance, and confusion mixing together in a chaos of human emotion. Get me President Jin Woo, Do Hyun ordered. The holographic display activated, showing the Oval Office of the United Earth Government. President Jin Woo looked tired, his usually neat appearance disheveled from hours of emergency meetings. Behind him, advisors moved back and forth with reports and data pads. Do-hyun, have you seen the latest intelligence reports? Jin-woo asked, without preamble. The Council isn't bluffing. They've started moving ships toward our border systems. I've seen them, sir. What are your orders? Jin-woo rubbed his temples. Defense Secretary Mi-young thinks we should comply. She says fighting. The entire galaxy is suicide. But Fleet Admiral Tae-ho disagrees. He wants to make a stand. Do-hyun could hear voices arguing in the background of the transmission. The government was split, just like the military. Some wanted to preserve what they could by retreating. Others refused to abandon millions of colonists to alien demands. What's your opinion, Admiral? Jin-woo asked. Do-hyun looked around his bridge at the young officers working at their stations. Most of them had been born on colony worlds. Earth was their heritage, but the colonies were their homes. How could they ask these people to abandon everything they had built? Sir, humans don't run from bullies, Do-hyun said simply. Jin-woo smiled for the first time in days. My thoughts exactly. Prepare our response. 2 hours later, Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the UES Incheon, flagship of humanity's first fleet. The massive ship hung in space near the Jupiter orbital shipyards, surrounded by 846 other vessels. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and support ships formed perfect geometric patterns that stretched for thousands of kilometers. The fleet looked impressive, but Do-hyun knew the numbers. 50,000 alien ships against less than 1,000. Human vessels. On paper it was hopeless, but humans had never been good at accepting hopeless situations. Open a channel to all council frequencies, Do-hyun ordered. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, sir. You're broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Do-hyun straightened his uniform and looked directly into the camera. This is Admiral Do-hyun of the United Earth Defense Force, speaking for all humanity. We have received your ultimatum and considered it carefully. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Earth respectfully declines. Across the galaxy, alien leaders watched the transmission with mixtures of surprise and amusement. They had expected either immediate surrender or desperate pleas for negotiation. This calm refusal caught them off guard. Do-hyun continued. Humanity will not abandon its colonies. We will not retreat to Sol System. We will defend our people and our worlds against any aggression. This is our final answer. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Then the responses began flooding in. Admiral Krextal's reptilian face filled screens across human space as he delivered the Vorthak Empire's reply. Foolish humans, you have chosen extinction over wisdom. We will demonstrate the price of defying the Council. Prepare to watch your colonies burn. Queen Zack Thresh's drones echoed the sentiment in their mechanical voices. The hive mind calculates zero probability of human survival. Resistance is illogical. Resistance will be crushed. Other species added their own threats and warnings. The message was clear. Humanity had made the wrong choice, and they would pay for it. But on the bridge of the Incheon, Do-hyun seemed strangely calm. He walked to his command chair and settled into it with the confidence of a man who knew something. His enemies did not. Sir, Commander Hyejin asked quietly, are you sure about this? The odds are impossible. Do-hyun smiled, an expression that somehow looked both sad and satisfied. Hyejin, there's something you need to understand about those odds. He activated his personal communicator and sent a coded message to Earth. 3 simple words that would change everything. The odds, he said as he watched the message transmit, are not what they appear to be. Far away on Axis Prime, the Alien Council members began planning their demonstration of superior firepower. They would show these upstart humans what happened to species that refused to know their place. They had no idea what they were about to unleash. The emergency session of the United Earth government had been going for 6 hours straight. Coffee cups and energy drink containers littered the conference table as humanity's leaders debated their response to the galactic ultimatum. The air in the secure bunker beneath Geneva felt thick with tension and recycled atmosphere. President Jin Woo sat at the head of the table, his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. To his right, Defense Secretary Mi Young shuffled through digital reports on her tablet, her face growing paler with each page. Across from her, Fleet Admiral Tae Ho maintained his military posture despite the exhaustion showing in his eyes. "The numbers don't lie," Mi Young said, her voice strained from hours of argument. 50,000 alien ships against our single fleet. Even if our technology is superior, which intelligence suggests it isn't, we're outnumbered 60 to 1. This isn't courage, it's suicide. Admiral Tae Ho leaned forward, his weathered hands flat on the table. Secretary Mi Young, with respect, you're thinking like an accountant, not a strategist. Wars aren't won by counting ships. They're won by will, by determination, and by refusing to accept defeat. Pretty words don't stop plasma cannons, Admiral. Mi Young shot back. Our colonies have millions of civilians. Are you willing to sacrifice them for the sake of human pride? The question hung in the air like smoke. Around the table, other officials shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew the stakes. Everyone understood what resistance might cost. Foreign Minister Chang Ho spoke up from the far end of the table. What about partial compliance? We could evacuate the outer colonies but keep the core systems. Maybe negotiate a compromise. The aliens didn't offer a compromise, Tae Ho replied firmly. They want us back in Sol system, period. That means abandoning New Busan, New Seoul, every world our people have built over 2 centuries. President Jin Woo listened to the debate while studying the holographic display floating above the table. It showed human space in blue, with red markers indicating suspected alien fleet movements. The enemy was already positioning forces near their borders. What's the word from the colonies themselves? Jin Woo asked. Director of Colonial Affairs Yoon Seo activated her datapad. Mixed reactions, sir. The inner colonies are split between evacuation and resistance. But the outer colonies... She paused, choosing her words carefully. They're almost unanimous. They refuse to abandon their homes. Can we blame them? Asked Economic Advisor Jae Hyun. Some of those families have been on those worlds for 4 generations. They've never even seen Earth. Mi Young stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Then we're condemning them to death. Is that what we want? To be remembered as the government that led humanity to extinction because we were too proud to bend? The room erupted in arguments. Voices rose as officials took sides, some supporting immediate evacuation, others demanding resistance at any cost. Jin Woo let them argue for several minutes before raising his hand for silence. Enough, he said quietly, but his voice carried absolute authority. I've heard all the arguments. Now I want to hear from Admiral Do Hyun. The holographic display shifted to show the bridge of the UES Incheon. Admiral Do Hyun appeared, still in his dress uniform despite the late hour. Behind him, The bridge crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. "Admiral, you've had time to review the situation. What's your assessment?" Jin-Woo asked. Do-hyun's expression remained neutral. "Mr. President, the aliens expect us to calculate odds like they do. They see numbers and assume victory, but they don't understand how humans think when cornered." "That's not an answer to the President's question," Mi-young interrupted. "Can we win this war?" Do-hyun looked directly at her through the transmission. "Secretary Mi-young, winning and losing depend on how you define those terms. Can we prevent alien invasion? Yes. Can we protect our colonies? Yes. Can we maintain human independence? Absolutely. How?" The question came from several officials at once. Do-hyun smiled slightly. "By showing them that their calculations are wrong." Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms began sounding throughout the bunker. Emergency lights bathed the conference room in red as communication officers rushed in with urgent reports. "Sir," one of them announced breathlessly, "we're detecting massive fleet movements in the Vorthak Empire. Admiral Krextal is assembling a demonstration force." "How many ships?" Taeho asked. 200 vessels, sir. They're heading for the Kepler system." A collective gasp went around the room. Kepler system contained New Busan, one of humanity's most prosperous colonies, home to 3 million people. "They're not wasting time," Jin-Woo muttered. "How long? Until they arrive?" 48 hours at current speed, sir." Jin-Woo looked back at Do-hyun's image. "Admiral, can you intercept them?" "The first fleet is already moving, sir. We'll reach New Busan 12 hours before the aliens arrive." Mi-young threw her hands up in despair. 800 ships against 200. Those might be better odds. But it's still a massacre waiting to happen. "Maybe," Do-hyun replied calmly. "Or maybe the aliens are about to learn something important about human engineering." The transmission ended, leaving the government officials staring at a blank screen. Outside the bunker, Earth continued its ancient rotation, unaware that humanity's fate would be decided in a distant star system within the next 2 days. Jin-Woo stood up slowly, feeling the weight of his decision settling on his shoulders like a heavy coat. "Admiral Taeho, send orders to all fleet commanders. Full combat readiness. If the aliens want a demonstration of force, we'll give them one." "Sir," Mi-young said desperately, "it's not too late. We could still send a message." "Offer to negotiate." Jin-Woo turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her step back. It was the look of a man who had made peace with an impossible choice. "Secretary Mi-young, my grandfather fought in the last war on Earth. He told me something I've never forgotten." Jin-Woo's voice grew quiet but firm. "He said that some things are worth fighting for, even when you can't win. Freedom is one of those things." "And if we lose everything?" Jin-Woo walked to the wall display showing Earth from orbit, blue and beautiful and fragile. "Then we lose it as free humans, not as slaves who gave up without a fight." The room fell, silent. One by one, the officials nodded their agreement. Even Mi-young, her face pale with fear, gave a reluctant nod. "Admiral Taeho," Jin-Woo said without turning around, "send a message to all human colonies. Tell them Earth stands with them. Tell them we will not abandon them. And tell them to prepare for war." As the orders went out across human space, a strange calm settled over Earth's leadership. They had chosen their path, knowing it might lead to humanity's destruction. But they had chosen it freely, and that made all the difference. In deep space, the First Fleet accelerated toward New Busan, carrying with it humanity's hopes and secrets. Admiral Do-hyun sat in his command chair, reviewing files that bore the highest classification levels. Files that contained information the aliens would never expect. The demonstration was about to begin, but not the one the aliens had planned. Admiral Krextall stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Bone Crusher, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. His demonstration fleet of 200 Vorthak warships moved through hyperspace toward the human colony of New Busan. Each ship in his fleet was a masterpiece of alien engineering, armed with plasma cannons that could melt through asteroid belts and shielded by energy barriers that had never been breached in 3,000 years of warfare. "Status report," Krextall ordered, his reptilian voice echoing through the bridge. His tactical officer, a younger Vorthak named Thekvar, checked his instruments. 17 hours to target, Admiral. All ships reporting ready for combat. No sign of human resistance so far. Krextall's scales shifted to a pleased shade of green. Of course not. They know they cannot win. Perhaps they will surrender before we arrive and save us the trouble of destroying them. The bridge crew hissed their approval. They had all heard the stories about human expansion, but none of them had ever fought humans before. To the Vorthak, humans were just another primitive species that had grown too big for their position in the galaxy. "Admiral," the communications officer announced, "we're receiving a message from New Busan Colony." "Put it through," Krextall commanded, expecting to hear pleas for mercy or offers of surrender. Instead, a calm human voice filled the bridge. "This is Governor Park of New Busan Colony. We have received notice of your approach and have prepared accordingly. We look forward to your arrival." The transmission ended, leaving the Vorthak bridge crew in confused silence. Thekvar looked up from his station. "Sir, that didn't sound like a surrender." "No matter," Krextall growled. "Humans always were an arrogant species. We will teach them humility." 12 hours later, the demonstration fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. New Busan hung in space like a blue-green jewel, its cities glowing on the night side. Orbital stations and defense platforms surrounded the planet, but they looked pathetically small compared to the approaching alien armada. "Scan for human ships," Krextall ordered. "Detecting multiple vessels, Admiral," the sensor officer reported. 847 ships in total approaching from the inner system. Krextall's eyes widened. "The entire human fleet! They're throwing everything they have at us!" "Should we call for reinforcements, sir?" Thekvar asked nervously. "For 800 primitive ships." Krextall laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "We have faced worse odds and won. Besides, this is supposed to be a demonstration. We will show the galaxy what happens when inferior species challenge the Council." The human fleet approached in perfect formation, their ships arranged in geometric patterns that looked almost ceremonial. At the front flew a massive vessel that dwarfed the others around it. The UES Incheon, flagship of Admiral Do-hyun. "Open. Communications," Krextall commanded. "Let me speak to their leader before we destroy them." Admiral Do-hyun's image appeared on the main screen. The human looked calm, almost relaxed, as he faced down overwhelming enemy forces. "Admiral Krextall, I presume. I am Admiral Do-hyun of the United Earth Defense Force." "Human," Krextall snarled. "You have one opportunity to surrender. Leave this system immediately and we will allow your ships to return to Seoul. Refuse, and we will destroy every human vessel here." Do-hyun nodded politely. "I appreciate the offer, Admiral, but we must decline. New Busan is under our protection." Your protection? Krextal's scales flushed red with anger. You face 200 ships, of the line with weapons that could crack planets. What protection can you possibly offer? You'll see, Do-hyun replied simply, and cut the transmission. Krextal stared at the blank screen in disbelief. Then his anger took over. All ships, attack formation. Show these humans the power of the Vorthak Empire. The alien fleet spread out into assault configuration, their plasma cannons charging with deadly energy. On paper, the battle should have been over in minutes. 200 advanced alien warships against 800 human vessels of unknown capability. But the first exchange of fire revealed that human capabilities were far from unknown. The alien plasma bolts lanced out across space, brilliant streams of superheated matter that could melt through any known armor. They struck the human shields and simply vanished, absorbed by energy barriers that seemed to learn and adapt with each impact. Impossible, Tekvar whispered. Our weapons have no effect. Increase power, Krextal roared. Maximum output on all cannons. The second volley was twice as powerful as the first, enough energy to destroy small moons. Again, the human shields absorbed the attack without visible damage. Then the humans returned fire. Captain Yunsu watched from the bridge of the destroyer Soul as her ship's kinetic cannon fired its first shot. The projectile, a simple chunk of tungsten no larger than a coffee cup, accelerated down the magnetic rails until it reached 12% of light speed. When it struck the alien cruiser skull render, the results were spectacular. The projectile punched through the enemy shields as if they weren't there, penetrated the alien armor like tissue paper, and tore through the ship from bow to stern. The cruiser simply came apart, its hull unable to contain the massive kinetic energy. Direct hit, Yunsu's weapons officer reported unnecessarily. Everyone on the bridge had seen the enemy ship disintegrate. Across the human fleet, similar weapons opened fire. Kinetic cannons that turned simple metal slugs into relativistic projectiles. Quantum disruptors that collapsed enemy shields from the inside. Gravity mines that created localized black holes for seconds at a time. The alien fleet, which had dominated galactic warfare for millennia, found itself helpless against technology they had never imagined. Shields failing on multiple ships, Tekvar reported, his voice rising with panic. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 15. We're losing ships faster than our computers can count. Krextal watched in horror as his demonstration fleet was systematically dismantled. Ships that had survived hundreds of battles were being destroyed by weapons that seemed to ignore every law of physics he understood. How is this possible? He demanded. Intelligence said humans were barely out of their system wars. Captain Yunsu was wondering the same thing as she accessed the sealed files Admiral Do-hyun had given her before the battle. The classification level was so high she had never seen it before. Her security clearance had been temporarily elevated. Just for this engagement, what she read made her hands shake. The First Fleet was not humanity's only military force. It wasn't even their primary fleet. It was their test platform, the place where Earth's most experimental technologies were field-tested before being incorporated into the real military. Every ship in the First Fleet carried weapons and defenses that represented decades of secret research. The kinetic cannons used magnetic fields that could manipulate matter at the quantum level. The shields learned from each attack by analyzing the energy patterns and adapting their harmonics in real time. The quantum disruptors created microscopic tears in space-time itself. And according to the files, this was just the beginning. Admiral, her communications officer called out, "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth High Command." The message was simple. Just 4 words that made Yunsu's blood run cold with excitement and fear. Phase 1 complete. Continue. She looked out at the battle raging around them. In less than 3 hours, the human fleet had reduced Krextal's 200 ships to less than 50. The aliens were in full retreat, their formation breaking apart as individual captains tried to save their vessels. "Message Earth Command," she ordered. "Phase 1 successful. Awaiting Phase 2 authorization." As the last alien ships limped away from New Busan, carrying word of their impossible defeat back to the Galactic Council, Captain Yunsu realized that everything she thought she knew about human military capability was wrong. If the First Fleet was just a test platform, what were the real fleets like? She had a feeling the galaxy was about to find out. Admiral Krextal's flagship, now the sole survivor of his demonstration fleet, jumped to hyperspace with its hull breached and its crew in shock. The Admiral himself sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the impossible. Humans had not just won the battle. They had won it so completely that it redefined what victory meant. As they fled toward Council space, Krextal tried to compose his report. How could he explain to the Council that their carefully planned demonstration had become humanity's triumph? Instead, how could he tell them that the humans they had dismissed as primitive had just revealed technology that made the entire Galactic Council look like children playing with toys? The answer was simple. He couldn't. No one would believe him. But the wreckage floating around New Busan would tell the story for him. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 12 species filled the Great Chamber on Axis Prime, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of sounds, lights, and electromagnetic pulses. Fear hung in the recycled air like a toxic cloud. Admiral Krextal stood at the center of the chamber, his reptilian form bearing the scars of his recent defeat. Burns covered his scales where emergency bulkheads had exploded around him during the retreat. His flagship, the Bone Crusher, sat in orbital repair yards with damage so severe that engineers weren't sure it could be salvaged. Impossible. Crystal Singer Velthara pulsed, her crystalline form flickering between blue and angry red. "Your report makes no sense, Admiral. How can a primitive species defeat Vorthak battle doctrine that has worked for 3 millennia? Krextal's scales darkened with shame and anger. "I saw it with my own eyes, Crystal Singer. Their weapons ignore our shields. Their defenses adapt to our attacks. My entire demonstration fleet was destroyed in 4 hours. 4 hours? Queen Zakthresh clicked her mandibles in disbelief. Her drone translator made her skepticism sound mechanical and cold. The hive mind calculates that Vorthak vessels should have lasted at least 12 hours against any known human technology. "That's just it," Krextal hissed. "This wasn't known human technology. They hit us with kinetic weapons that moved at 12% light speed. 12%? Our physics models say that's impossible for projectile weapons." Ambassador Gorthak of the Mantid Collective waved his forearms dismissively. "Perhaps your sensors malfunctioned in the heat of battle. Fear can cause equipment failures." Krextal's claws extended involuntarily. "Are you calling me a coward, Mantid?" "Enough," rumbled Prime Speaker Vexthon of the Hegemony Union. His massive form dominated one entire section of the chamber, each word echoing like distant thunder. "Fighting among ourselves accomplishes nothing. Show us the battle recordings." The chamber dimmed as holographic displays activated around the circular room. What they showed made even the most skeptical council members fall silent. The footage was clear and undeniable. Human ships absorbing plasma cannon fire that should have vaporized them. Alien vessels coming apart under weapons that seemed to punch holes in reality itself. The systematic destruction of a force that had been considered invincible. Crystal Singer Velthara's form flickered rapidly as she processed the implications. The energy signatures are wrong. Those human shields shouldn't be possible with their technology base. Unless their technology base isn't what we thought, said Science Coordinator Nexus of the Silicon Mines. The artificial intelligence spoke through speakers placed around the chamber. Analysis of the wreckage suggests the humans have developed matter manipulation at the quantum level. Queen Zack Thresh's translator crackled with static as her agitation increased. The hive mind demands explanation. How did intelligence fail so completely? How did we not detect this level of technological advancement? The question hung in the air like an accusation. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council's intelligence networks had monitored every species in known space. They tracked technological development, military capabilities, and expansion patterns with precision that had prevented dozens of potential conflicts. But somehow, they had missed the greatest military revolution in galactic history. Fleet Admiral Thexnus of the Aquatic Dominion gurgled his concerns through the translation matrix. Our deep space monitoring stations report unusual activity throughout human space. Energy signatures consistent with massive construction projects. What kind of construction? Demanded Vexthon. Unknown. The signatures are unlike anything in our databases, but the scale suggests orbital shipyards larger than anything we've built. Krextal felt a chill run down his spine. How many shipyards? At least 23 major facilities, one in each human system. But the concerning part is what we're detecting in dark space. Dark space? Crystal Singer Velthara pulsed anxiously. Nothing operates in dark space. The energy requirements alone would be prohibitive. Thexnes activated his own holographic display, showing a map of the galaxy with human space highlighted in blue. Our long-range sensors are picking up movement. Patterns in the void between star systems. Ships or stations operating in areas we thought were empty. The implications were staggering. If humans had learned to operate in the empty space between stars, they could move fleets without being detected. They could build installations that no one would find. They could hide military assets beyond the reach of any intelligence network. Science Coordinator Nexus spoke again, its artificial voice carrying calculations that chilled every organic being in the chamber. Analysis of the battle recordings reveals additional concerning data. The isotopes detected in human weapon fragments do not occur naturally anywhere in the galaxy. What does that mean? Asked Ambassador Gorthak. It means they're creating new forms of matter, artificial elements, with properties we cannot predict or counter. Queen Zack Thresh's translator began emitting a high-pitched whine as her agitation reached critical levels. The hive mind declares this situation unacceptable. Humans must be stopped before they become an existential threat to all council species. With what? Krextal snarled. They just destroyed 200 of our best ships without losing a single vessel. How do you propose we stop them? The chamber fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Galactic Council faced an opponent they might not be able to defeat. Crystal Singer Velthara dimmed to a pale blue as she accessed the Nexari Collective's databases. Our historical records show no precedent for this situation. No species has ever advanced this rapidly without being detected. Perhaps, suggested Prime Speaker Vestan slowly, they were detected. Perhaps they were always more advanced than we realized, and we simply saw what they wanted us to see. The suggestion was more terrifying than any weapon. If humans had been deliberately hiding their capabilities for 2 centuries, it meant they had been planning for this confrontation from the moment they made first contact. Fleet Admiral Thexinus activated emergency protocols, his aquatic form shifting color to indicate extreme concern. All Council fleets must be recalled to defensive positions immediately. We cannot risk another disaster like New Busan. Agreed, rumbled Vestan. But we also cannot allow humans to continue expanding unchecked. They must be contained. Science. Coordinator Nexus accessed its vast computational networks before responding. Probability analysis suggests containment may no longer be possible. If human technological advancement continues at current rates, they will achieve military superiority. Overall Council forces within 18 standard months. 18 months? Krextal's scales went completely black. Are you certain? The calculation is based on observed capability increases and projected development curves. However, this assumes they do not already possess superior technology that they have not yet revealed. Ambassador Gorthok raised his 4 arms in a gesture of frustration. So we have 18 months to find a solution, assuming they don't have something worse waiting for us. Crystal Singer Velthara pulsed rapidly, her form cycling through the entire spectrum of visible light. The Nexari Collective has reached a decision. We propose immediate diplomatic contact with human leadership. Perhaps negotiation is still possible. Negotiation from a position of weakness, Queen Zakthresh observed coldly. The hive mind calculates low probability of favorable terms. Better than extinction, Velthara replied. As the council members debated their limited options, none of them noticed the small anomaly in their sensor readings. Deep in the outer system of Axis Prime, something had briefly appeared on passive scanners before vanishing again. Something that matched no known ship configuration in their databases. Something that suggested human intelligence capabilities were as advanced as their weapons technology. The council would continue their debates for hours, not knowing that every word was being recorded and transmitted across the galaxy to receivers they couldn't detect. Admiral Do Hyun sat in his command, chair aboard the UES Incheon, reading the intelligence reports with satisfaction. The aliens were exactly as predictable as Earth strategists had calculated. He opened his personal communicator and sent a brief message to Fleet Admiral Teho on Earth. Council taking defensive positions. Recommend Phase 2 initiation. The response came back within minutes. Phase 2 authorized. Show them the second fleet. Du Yun smiled as he looked out at the stars surrounding New Busan. The aliens thought they had seen humanity's full capability. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 6 weeks had passed since the Battle of New Busan, and the galaxy held its breath. The Galactic Council had retreated to defensive positions, pulling their fleets back from human borders while they tried to understand what they were truly facing. Intelligence reports flooded in from across human space, each one more disturbing than the last. Admiral Do Hyun stood on the observation deck of the UES Incheon, watching the repair crews finish their work on the ships damaged during the battle. The First Fleet looked pristine again, every vessel restored to perfect condition. But Do Hyun knew that appearances could be deceiving. Commander Hye Jin approached with a secure data pad in her hands. "Sir, priority message from Earth High Command." Du Hyun accepted the device and read the brief message, His expression remained neutral, but Hye-jin noticed his grip tighten slightly around the pad. "New orders?" she asked. "Phase 2. Do-hyun replied simply. "Admiral Tae-ho wants us to show them the Second Fleet." Hye-jin's eyes widened. In all her years of service, she had heard whispers about other fleets, but she had assumed they were rumors or contingency plans. "Sir, are you saying there really are other fleets?" Do-hyun turned to face her, and she saw something in his expression that made her step back. It was the look of a man carrying secrets too large for one person to bear. "Commander, everything you think you know about human military capability is about to change. Send a coded transmission to coordinates Sierra 7 Alpha. Tell them it's time." The coordinates meant nothing to Hye-jin, but she followed orders without question. As the transmission went out, she wondered what could possibly be hiding in the empty space beyond Proxima Centauri. She didn't have to wait long to find out. 12 hours later, long-range sensors detected movement in the dark space between star systems. At first, it appeared to be an asteroid field, drifting closer to human space. But as the objects moved into sensor range, their true nature became apparent. Ships, hundreds of them. But not like any vessels in the First Fleet. Admiral Soo-jin stood on the bridge of the UES Gwangju, the massive dreadnought that served as flagship of humanity's Second Fleet. The ship was 3 times the size of anything in the First Fleet. Its hull black as space itself and covered with weapon systems that seemed to bend light around them. "Status report," Soo-jin commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded secret fleets for decades. "All ships reporting ready for combat, Admiral," her tactical officer replied. 1,247 vessels in formation. Stealth systems functioning within normal parameters. Soo-jin nodded with satisfaction. The Second Fleet had been hidden in dark space for 20 years, supplied by automated cargo vessels and crewed by personnel who officially didn't exist. They were humanity's true sword, kept sharp and ready for the day when Earth's enemies revealed themselves. "Bring us to full visibility," she ordered. "Let them see what they're really fighting." Across the fleet, stealth systems deactivated in sequence. Ships that had been invisible to all known sensors suddenly appeared on every detection grid in the galaxy. The Second Fleet materialized like ghosts, becoming solid, their massive forms blotting out the stars behind them. On Axis Prime, emergency alarms screamed through the Galactic Council chambers. Crystal Singer Velthara pulsed so rapidly with shock that her light began strobing like a warning beacon. "Impossible," she managed. "Sensors detect over 1,200 ships. Where did they come from?" Admiral Krextall felt his blood turn cold as he studied the tactical displays. These weren't just more human ships. They were larger, more advanced, and configured unlike anything in their databases. "Science Coordinator Nexus," he called out. "Analysis of the new fleet." The artificial intelligence processed the sensor data before responding. "Initial scans suggest technological advancement beyond Second Fleet capabilities by at least 50%. Energy signatures indicate weapon systems operating on principles unknown to current physics models." Queen Zach Thresh's translator crackled with static as her agitation overloaded the communication matrix. "The hive mind demands explanation. How did humans hide an entire fleet without detection?" "The same way they hid their true capabilities," Nexus replied. "Through technological superiority we failed to recognize." The answer no one wanted to hear hung in the air like poison gas. If humans could hide fleets this large, what else were they hiding? Captain Young-ho commanded the heavy cruiser UES Daegu, one of the Second Fleet's most advanced vessels. As the fleet moved toward its first target, he reviewed the mission parameters. With his crew, "Our objective is Fortress Scarbeck," he announced to his bridge crew. "Vorthak's stronghold, never conquered in 3,000 years of galactic warfare. We're going to take it in 6 hours." His weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander So Young, looked up from her console. "Sir, Fortress specifications show energy shields, rated for capital ship bombardment and weapon systems that could destroy small moons." Young-ho smiled grimly. "Lieutenant Commander, you're thinking like our enemies. You're assuming their defenses can stop our weapons." "What makes our weapons different, sir?" "Phase shift technology," Young-ho replied. "Watch and learn." The Second Fleet approached Fortress Scarbeck in perfect formation, their black hulls absorbing sensor beams like they absorbed light. The massive Vorthak installation hung in space like an artificial planet, bristling with enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. Fortress Commander Griktar watched the approaching human ships with a mixture of fear and determination. His installation had never fallen because it was literally impregnable. Energy shields surrounded the fortress in overlapping layers, each one capable of stopping the most powerful weapons known to galactic science. "All defensive systems online," he ordered. "Prepare to demonstrate why this fortress has never been conquered." The human ships opened fire first, their weapons creating streams of energy that looked almost alive as they twisted through space. But as the beams struck the fortress shields, something impossible happened. The weapons passed through the shields without triggering them. "Shield failure!" his tactical officer screamed. "Impossible!" Griktar snarled. "Run diagnostics!" "Shields are functioning normally, sir. The human weapons are simply ignoring them." Young-ho watched from the bridge of the Daegu as his ship's phase cannons tore through the fortress defenses. The weapons shifted their energy patterns to exist, slightly outside normal space-time, allowing them to pass through conventional shields before rematerializing inside the target. "Direct hit on Fortress Section 7, So Young reported. "Their shield generators are offline." "Target the weapon systems next," Young-ho ordered. "Show them what happens when they threaten human colonies." The battle for Fortress Scarbeck lasted exactly 5 hours and 43 minutes. When it ended, the impregnable stronghold was a drifting wreck, its weapons destroyed and its garrison evacuated to escape pods. News of the fortress's fall spread across the galaxy like wildfire. If humans could destroy a Vorthak stronghold that easily, nowhere in Council space was safe. Admiral Su-jin stood in her ready room aboard the Gwangju, reading reports from across human space. The Second Fleet's reveal had achieved its intended effect. Alien forces were retreating even further, pulling back to protect their core worlds. But she knew this was just the beginning. "Admiral," her communications officer announced over the intercom. "Priority message from Earth High Command." Su-jin activated her secure terminal and read the brief message. Then she read it again, hardly believing what she was seeing. "Ma'am?" her aide asked. "New orders?" Su-jin looked out at the stars, thinking about the fleets still hidden in dark space. The Second Fleet was impressive, but it was still just the beginning of Earth's true military might. "Prepare a transmission to Admiral Do-hyun," she ordered. "Tell him that Phase 3 is authorized." "Phase 3, ma'am?" Su-jin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Tell him it's time to show them the rest." As her message traveled across space to the First Fleet, Su-jin wondered how the aliens would react when they learned that humanity had not 2 fleets, but 10. And that was still not the complete truth. In the deepest reaches of space, construction, continued on projects that would make even the Second Fleet look small. Humanity had been preparing for this war since first contact, and they were just getting started. The galaxy was about to learn that human patience was not weakness. It was strategy. The communication went out on all galactic frequencies simultaneously, overriding every system in known space. From the council chambers on Axis Prime to the smallest trading post on the galactic rim, every being with access to communications, technology received the same message. Admiral Hyajin appeared on screens across the galaxy, standing on the bridge of a ship class that no alien database contained. Behind her, tactical displays showed star charts marking locations throughout human space. Her voice was calm, almost conversational, as she delivered humanity's true response to the Galactic Council's ultimatum. "People of the galaxy," she began, "6 weeks ago your council demanded that humanity withdraw to Sol system with our single fleet. You made that impossible when you chose aggression over negotiation." On Axis Prime, the council members watched in stunned silence. Crystal singer Velthara pulsed rapidly between colors, her crystalline form unable to settle on a single hue. Admiral Krextal's scales had gone completely black, while Queen Zack Thresh's mandibles clicked so rapidly they created a high-pitched whine. "Today," Hyjin continued, "we reveal the truth about human military capabilities. You have seen our First Fleet and our Second Fleet. You have witnessed technology that your science claimed was impossible. But you have seen only the beginning." The star charts behind her began to light up, showing locations that had appeared empty on all previous scans. Behold the true strength of Earth. Across 10 different star systems, space itself seemed to tear open as massive fleets decloaked simultaneously. Ships materialized from nothing, their hulls reflecting starlight as stealth systems deactivated in perfect synchronization. The Third Fleet emerged from the asteroid fields of the Vega system, led by Admiral Bong Su aboard the siege dreadnought, UES Mokpo. 2,100 ships specialized in planetary assault and orbital bombardment spread across space like an iron cloud. Admiral Bong Su stood in his command center, watching tactical displays that showed fortress worlds throughout. Vorthak space, his fleet had been designed for one purpose: breaking enemy strongholds that thought themselves invulnerable. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his tactical coordinator announced. "Excellent," Bong Su replied. "Begin orbital mechanics calculations for Vorthak Prime. I want to know how long it would take to reduce their homeworld to molten slag." The Fourth Fleet materialized around Wolf 359 under Admiral Nare's command. 1,500 ships built for rapid assault and deep penetration strikes. Their black hulls seemed to absorb light itself, making them visible only as dark shapes against the stars. Nare reviewed intelligence reports from across Council space, identifying priority targets for elimination. Command centers, communication, hubs, fleet bases, all marked for destruction in the opening hours of any conflict. "Status of the hunter-killer squadrons?" she asked her operations officer. "All squadrons ready for deployment, Admiral. We can have strike teams inside Council space within 6 hours of authorization." "Good. Make sure they understand their primary targets. Council leadership doesn't get to escape if this war goes hot." The Fifth Fleet appeared in the Tau Ceti system, commanded by Admiral Dong Wook. Their ships were smaller, but far more numerous. 3,000 vessels designed for swarm tactics and overwhelming enemy positions through pure numbers. In the Altair system, the Sixth Fleet under Admiral Min Ho revealed itself. These ships looked different from all the others, their hulls covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Stealth systems functioning perfectly, Minho's chief engineer reported. Even now, enemy. Sensors can barely detect us despite full visibility. And the experimental weapons? Ready for field testing, sir. The reality disruptors should provide quite a surprise for anyone who thinks they understand physics. The revelations continued. Across human space, the 7th Fleet in the Sirius system specialized in electronic warfare and system disruption. The 8th Fleet near Barnard's Star, equipped with weapons that could manipulate gravity itself. The 9th Fleet, hidden in the Oort cloud of Alpha Centauri, carrying planet killers that could crack worlds from the inside out. And finally, the 10th Fleet Admiral Gunwoo stood on the bridge of the UES Jeju, a ship so massive it registered on gravitational sensors as a small moon. Around him, 846 other vessels waited in perfect formation, each one a technological marvel that dwarfed everything that had come before. Size comparison with enemy capital ships? Gunwoo asked his sensor operator. Sir, our destroyers are larger than their battleships. Our battleships are larger than their space stations. The flagship itself... The operator paused, checking his readings again. Sir, we mass more than some asteroids. Gunwoo nodded with satisfaction. The 10th Fleet was humanity's ultimate statement. Absolute overwhelming force that could reduce enemy fleets to cosmic dust through sheer firepower alone. Back on the mystery ship, Admiral Haya Jin continued her galaxy-wide broadcast. These 10 fleets represent 2 centuries of human preparation. While you believed we were primitive explorers stumbling through space, we were building the most advanced military force in galactic history. The tactical displays behind her showed ship counts and technological capabilities that made every Council military planner reach for emergency stimulants. Our first fleet was never our only fleet, Hyejin explained. It was our proof of concept, our demonstration model, a test platform for technologies that we would later perfect and deploy on a scale you never imagined possible. Science Coordinator Nexus processed the incoming data streams, its artificial consciousness struggling to comprehend the implications. Analysis suggests total human military assets exceed 100,000 combat vessels, it announced to the Council Chamber. This represents a force concentration larger than all Council fleets combined. Impossible, Admiral Krextall growled, but his protest sounded hollow even to himself. Furthermore, Nexus continued, energy signature analysis indicates technological advancement beyond our ability to counter. Recommend immediate diplomatic contact to prevent total strategic defeat. Hyejin's broadcast continued, her voice never losing its calm, professional tone. Each fleet specializes in different aspects of warfare. Siege operations, rapid assault, stealth infiltration, electronic warfare, gravity manipulation, planetary destruction, and absolute overwhelming force. She paused, letting the implications sink in across the galaxy. Your council believed that superior numbers would ensure victory. You calculated odds based on ship counts and weapon yields, but you made a fundamental error in your mathematics. The star charts behind her zoomed out, showing the entire galaxy with human space marked in blue and council territories in red. You assumed that the fleets you could see represented our full capabilities. You never considered that we might be showing you exactly what we wanted you to see. You never imagined that a species might choose to appear weak while building strength in secret. Crystal Singer Velthera's form flickered so rapidly it hurt to look at her directly. The deception spans 2 centuries, she whispered. Every first contact protocol, every treaty negotiation, every intelligence assessment, all based on lies. Not lies, Queen Zack Thresh corrected, her translator crackling with static. Strategy. The hive mind recognizes superior planning when it encounters it. Hyejin smiled as she delivered humanity's final revelation. The Galactic Council demanded that we withdraw to Sol system. You threatened our colonies. You attacked our people. You chose conflict over coexistence. The tactical displays behind her shifted, showing projected fleet movements and target priorities. These 10 fleets now await final authorization from Earth Command. We can end this conflict in days, reducing every council stronghold to debris and every fleet to scrap metal. Or, she paused, letting the word hang in space like a gravitational anomaly. You can choose wisdom over pride, coexistence over conquest, peace over annihilation. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in absolute silence. In the council chambers, 12 species stared at displays showing human military might that exceeded their worst nightmares. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Humanity could destroy them all, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Admiral Krextal spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. How do we surrender to an enemy we never knew we were? Fighting? The question hung in the air as the Council faced the reality of their situation. They had demanded humanity show their strength. Humanity had obliged, and now the galaxy would never be the same. Deep in space, aboard the UES Incheon, Admiral Do-hyun received final authorization codes from Earth. 10 fleets, over 100,000. Ships, weapons that could reshape reality itself, all awaiting his command. He looked out at the stars and wondered if the aliens would choose wisdom or destruction. The choice was theirs. For now. The emergency session had been running for 18 straight hours. The Galactic Council chamber reeked of fear sweat, electromagnetic discharge, and the bitter chemical signatures of stress pheromones from a dozen different species. Crystal Singer. Velthara pulsed a sickly yellow as she addressed the assembly. The Nexari Collective proposes immediate diplomatic contact with human leadership. These revelations change everything. Diplomacy? Admiral Krextal's scales flashed angry red. They've been lying to us for 2 centuries. Everything we thought we knew about humanity was a deception. Queen Zack Thresh's mandibles clicked rapidly as her translator crackled. The hive mind calculates that diplomatic solutions offer the highest probability of species survival. Military options result in total extinction. But not everyone agreed. In the far corner of the chamber, war drone Zack Thresh represented a different faction of the Zephyrian hive. Unlike the diplomatic drones, war drones were bred for conflict and programmed to view retreat as worse than death. The hive mind is divided, the war drone announced, its voice harsh and mechanical. Some calculations suggest that human capabilities are exaggerated, psychological warfare designed to avoid actual conflict. Exaggerated? Prime Speaker Vexthon rumbled, his massive form shifting with disbelief. They destroyed Fortress Skarbek in 6 hours, a stronghold that had never fallen. 1 fortress, Zack Thresh countered, against weapons that may be untested or limited in number. The humans may be bluffing about their true capabilities. Science Coordinator Nexus accessed its vast databases before responding. Analysis of human fleet compositions suggests technological advancement consistent with their demonstrated capabilities. The probability of deception is less than 12%. 12% is still a chance, Zack Thresh insisted. The Warcast calculates that a preemptive strike against Earth itself could eliminate human command and control before their fleets can respond effectively. The suggestion sent shockwaves through the chamber. Attack Earth directly? Strike at the human homeworld before their scattered fleets could regroup? Fleet Admiral Thexnus gurgled his objections through the translation matrix. Suicide. Even if we succeeded in reaching Earth, the retaliation would be total. Only if their fleets survive to retaliate, Zack Thresh replied coldly. Strike the head and the body dies. Destroy Earth's leadership and their fleets become scattered forces without central command. Ambassador Gorthak waved his forearms in agitation. You're talking about genocide, the complete destruction of an entire world. They would do the same to us, Zack Thresh stated. The Warcast recognizes no difference between victory and extinction. Better to die fighting than to surrender without testing their true strength. The debate raged for hours, but eventually fear overcame wisdom. The moderate voices were drowned out by those who preferred the certainty of battle to the uncertainty of surrender. Crystal Singer Velthera made one final attempt at reason. If we attack Earth and fail, humanity will have justification for total war against all Council species. If we do nothing, Zack Thresh replied, they will conquer us anyway. The Warcast chooses to die with honor. The vote was close. 7 species in favor of the preemptive strike, 5 opposed. It was enough. Within hours, the largest armada in galactic history began assembling in the Rigel system. 8,000 ships from every Council fleet, stripped from defensive positions and concentrated for one massive assault. Admiral Krextal found himself in overall command, his experience with human capabilities making him the logical choice despite his previous defeat. He stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UNS Eternal Dominion, watching thousands of ships maneuver into attack formation. "Status report," he ordered, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "All fleets reporting ready for hyperspace. Jump," his tactical officer replied. "Course plotted for Sol System. Estimated arrival time, 16 hours. Krextal nodded grimly. 16 hours to reach Earth. Then they would see if humanity's apparent strength was real or merely an elaborate bluff. The Armada jumped to hyperspace in perfect synchronization, 8,000 ships vanishing from normal space in a coordinated flash of exotic energy. Behind them, they left Council space virtually defenseless, gambling everything on one decisive strike. They had no way of knowing that their fleet movements had been monitored from the moment they began assembling. Admiral Sungmin stood in the command center of Asteroid Base Omega, humanity's most classified military installation. To any external observer, Omega appeared to be just another space rock drifting through Sol System's asteroid belt. In reality, it was the central coordination point for Earth's most secret defensive assets. "Confirmed fleet count?" Sungmin asked. His intelligence officer. 8,000 enemy vessels, sir. Mixed composition from all Council species. Estimated arrival at Sol perimeter in 14 hours. Sungmin nodded calmly. Earth's deepest secret was about to be revealed, and he was the man chosen to reveal it. "Activate the 11th Fleet," he ordered. Around him, officers began implementing protocols that had been planned for decades but never tested. Deep within the asteroid belt, objects that had masqueraded as space rocks for generations began to move. The largest of these asteroids was actually the UES Halasan, Sungmin's flagship. At 12 kilometers long, it was more space station than ship, carrying enough firepower to sterilize small planets. Around it, Hundreds of other vessels shed their camouflage and revealed their true nature. Hidden naval bases disguised as mining operations powered up their defensive systems. Weapons, platforms that had appeared to be communication satellites, armed themselves with planet-killer missiles. Even some of Earth's moons revealed hidden gun ports and shield generators. The 11th Fleet had been hidden in plain sight for over 50 years, disguised as the normal infrastructure of human space, while Earth's other 10 fleets operated. In deep space, the 11th had always been home, waiting for the day when enemies would be foolish enough to attack the Sol system directly. Fleet status? Sung Min inquired. All vessels responding. Stealth systems deactivating on schedule. Weapons coming online. Sung Min walked to the main viewport and looked out at Earth, blue and beautiful in the distance. That world had produced the most advanced military technology in galactic history, all in service of one simple goal: ensuring that humanity would never again be threatened with extinction. "Sir," his communications officer announced, "the enemy fleet is dropping out of hyperspace. Admiral Krextal expected to find Earth lightly defended, protected by perhaps a few patrol ships and orbital platforms." The intelligence reports had suggested that most human military assets were deployed with the 10 revealed fleets. Instead, his sensors detected over 3,000 combat vessels already in position around Earth, with more emerging from concealment every minute. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did they come from?" "Unknown, sir. They appear to be uncloaking from positions throughout the solar system. Ships we identified as asteroids, space stations we thought were civilian facilities, even what we believed to be natural satellites." Krextal felt his blood turn to ice. The humans hadn't just hidden fleets in deep space, they had turned their entire home system into a fortified stronghold, camouflaged so well that Council intelligence had never suspected its true nature. "All ships! Attack formation," he ordered, desperation creeping into his voice. "We came here to end this war. We finish what we started." The Battle of Sol began with the largest exchange of fire in galactic history. 8,000 Council ships opened up with everything they had, unleashing enough destructive energy to crack planets. The human response was devastating in its precision. Rather than matching firepower with firepower, the 11th Fleet demonstrated technology that made even the previous 10 fleets look primitive. Gravity wells appeared around enemy ships, crushing them like invisible hands. Temporal distortions slowed some vessels to a crawl, while accelerating others beyond their structural limits. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as human weapons manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. Admiral Sung Min watched the battle unfold from his command center, noting with satisfaction how perfectly the defensive systems performed. "Enemy losses? 70% and climbing, sir. Their formation is completely broken. And our casualties? Minimal damage to 3 vessels. No ships lost. Krextal's armada, the largest military force ever assembled by the Galactic Council, was being systematically annihilated, not just defeated, erased so completely that there would be no survivors to tell the tale." As his own flagship came under attack from weapons that seemed to ignore every law of physics, Krextal realized the terrible truth. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their military strength. They had been holding back. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking, "enemy vessels are using some kind of matter disintegration beam. Ships aren't just being destroyed. They're being converted to energy at the molecular level." Krextal watched in horror as the pride of the Galactic Council was reduced to nothing more than scattered atoms and electromagnetic radiation. The humans had not just won the battle. They had demonstrated that the difference between Council technology and human capabilities was so vast that resistance was not just futile. It was... The galaxy fell silent in the aftermath of Seoul. Where 8,000 ships had once threatened Earth, only empty space remained. Not even debris marked their passing. The human weapons had been so complete in their destruction that matter itself had been converted to energy and dissipated into the cosmic background radiation. President Jin Woo stood before the assembled representatives of humanity, his image broadcast simultaneously to every human colony and every alien world capable of receiving transmissions. Behind him, the blue curve of Earth filled the viewport, serene and untouched, despite having just witnessed the most devastating military engagement in galactic history. "People of the galaxy," Jin Woo began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. 200 years ago, humanity made first contact with your civilizations. We were welcomed as a young species, guided by those who claimed to be our betters, taught our place in your established order. On the remnants of Axis Prime, the surviving council members watched with the desperate attention of condemned prisoners. Awaiting their sentence, Crystal Singer Velthara pulsed a dim, defeated blue while the few remaining representatives huddled in their emergency bunkers. "What you never understood," Jin Woo continued, "was that humanity had already learned the most important lesson the universe could teach. We were alone, truly, completely alone in a cosmos that did not care if we lived or died." Admiral Yun Su, now Supreme Fleet Coordinator, stood in the primary command center beneath the lunar surface, monitoring the positions of 11 fleets that could reshape galactic civilization with a single order. The tactical displays showed the current deployment, scattered across space but ready to converge on any target within hours. Jin Woo's voice carried across the void, reaching worlds where alien populations cowered in their cities, wondering if they would see another sunrise. "When we encountered your council, we observed your methods: military superiority through overwhelming numbers, diplomatic control through intimidation, peace maintained through the threat of annihilation. We decided that if these were the rules of galactic civilization, we would learn to play by them better than anyone else." Captain Yun Su had become Admiral Yun Su, but her role now transcended simple military command. She was the coordinator of humanity's true revelation, that everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare, technology, and power had been obsolete for generations. Every treaty we signed, every trade agreement we honored, every diplomatic protocol we followed, all of it was intelligence gathering, Jin Woo explained with clinical precision. "We studied your technologies, your tactics, your weaknesses. We learned how you thought, how you fought, how you could be defeated." The revelation sent shockwaves through what remained of galactic civilization. 2 centuries of contact had not been peaceful coexistence. It had been the most comprehensive intelligence operation in history. While you believed we were struggling to master basic interstellar travel, our best minds were developing technologies that would make your most advanced weapons look like stone tools. While you thought we were expanding slowly due to primitive capabilities, we were secretly building the largest military-industrial complex the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Gunwoo, commander of the 10th Fleet, reviewed the latest intelligence reports from across known space. Every alien military installation was mapped, every fleet deployment tracked, every potential threat cataloged and targeted. If the order came, humanity could dismantle galactic civilization within a standard week. The fleets you have seen represent just one aspect of human preparation, Jinwoo continued. For every ship in our 11 revealed fleets, there are support, vessels, supply lines, manufacturing facilities, and research installations that you never detected. This was the part that made even human military commanders pause. The 11 fleets were impressive, but they were supported by an infrastructure that spanned not just human space, but secret installations in dark space between the stars. Our ship construction facilities alone exceed the combined industrial output of all Council species. Our research installations have made breakthroughs in physics that redefine what is possible. Our logistical networks can supply military operations across the entire galaxy simultaneously. Crystal Singer Velthara pulsed weakly as the scope of human deception became clear. 2 centuries, she whispered to the empty council chamber. They played a role for 2 centuries while building an empire we never saw. Queen Zack Thresh's remaining drones clicked their mandibles in what might have been admiration or terror. The hive mind had encountered superior planning before, but never on this scale. Jinwoo's tone shifted, becoming almost conversational. The council demanded that humanity withdraw to Sol System. You calculated that our single fleet posed no real threat. You never considered that we might have been showing you exactly what we wanted you to see. The star charts behind him lit up, showing the true extent of human presence in the galaxy. Not just the 23 official colonies, but hundreds of installations, bases, and facilities that had operated in secret for decades. The first fleet was never our military force, Jinwoo explained. It was our public relations department. A demonstration model designed to appear impressive enough to discourage casual aggression, but primitive enough to avoid triggering serious defensive responses. Admiral Do Hyun, now elevated to Supreme Fleet Commander, understood the psychology better than most. Humanity had walked a careful line for 2 centuries, appearing strong enough to be respected, but weak enough to avoid being perceived as a threat. Every human expansion, every colony established, every trade route opened, was part of a comprehensive strategic plan developed before we ever left Sol System, Jinwoo revealed. We knew that any species capable of interstellar travel would eventually become either an ally or an enemy. We prepared for both possibilities. The implications were staggering. Human expansion hadn't been driven by exploration or economic opportunity. It had been a military deployment disguised as peaceful colonization. Our colonies were never just settlements. They were forward operating bases. Our trade vessels were intelligence-gathering platforms. Our diplomatic missions were reconnaissance operations. For 200 years, we studied you while you ignored us. Admiral Hai-Jin, now Director of Strategic Planning, had access to files that revealed the true scope of human preparation. Every first contact protocol had been designed to extract maximum information while revealing minimum capability. Every diplomatic negotiation had been an opportunity to assess alien psychology and decision-making processes. The result, Jinwoo said with quiet satisfaction, is that we know more about your species than you know about yourselves.